So I finally got a new miter saw, and I went with the Bosch. This has the dual bevel, and it's the hinge slide miter saw, or the articulated arm saw. And it's just really super smooth. I'm really going to enjoy using the saw. And right out of the box, the saw is cutting nice and square. The only thing I'm going to change on the saw is the insert. I like to have a zero clearance insert. That makes it a little bit easier to line up your cuts, and it also supports the bottom of the board, so when you're making your cut, you have less tear out on the bottom of the board. I'll get started by putting some tape on the existing insert. And then with a sharp pencil, I'll poke holes right in the center where I'll need to drill holes for the new insert. And then I'll use a razor blade and cut the tape using the old insert as a guide for the cut. I'm removing the old insert with the Allen wrench that's provided with the saw. Next, I'll cut a piece of 1/2-inch plywood that measures 15 3/4 by 3 1/8. The depth of the insert needs to be 3/8 of an inch, so now I'll need to resaw the 1/2-inch plywood at 3/8. These two nipples are preventing the insert from sliding all the way into position. So next I'll remove a little material from the bottom. I'll measure in 3/4 of an inch and about 3/16 of an inch deep. I'm using a 1/2-inch Forstner bit to countersink the holes on the top of the insert, and then a 3/16 bit to drill through the insert. Well, that really didn't take too long, and it's one of those things that I think makes a big difference. Now, you may be wondering what will happen if I use the saw on a bevel. Well, if I have to replace the insert, then I will. But for the most part, I'll be using this saw with the blade in the 90-degree angle. And if I do use the bevel, well, like I said, I'll just replace it. It's not that, it didn't take too long, and it just makes a big difference. Now, when I was making this, I also made another sacrificial fence for my small Hitachi chop saw. That's the saw that I use for a lot of small moldings and frames and things like that. And if you don't know about the idea of a sacrificial fence, I just want to show you that because it really makes a huge difference. This is my small Hitachi saw. It's not a compound miter saw, it's just a chop saw. And what I like to do is put a sacrificial fence on the saw, and that creates just a curve in the fence, and it makes it really easy to line up your molding. You can line it right up with that curve. Actually, I like to use the saw in this direction for the most part. So maybe I'll move the camera over here, and we'll cut through the fence. This is the first cut. So now when I want to make a miter cut, it's really simple to line the pencil line up with the curve. Well, I know that I've talked about the sacrificial fence before in other videos, but I thought it was worth mentioning again just because it really is very useful. Now, I will usually replace that fence about every 3 to 4 weeks. As soon as you make a miter cut in both directions in a straight cut, you start to lose the accuracy of being able to line the pencil line up with the curve in the fence. So at that point, I just make a new fence. Sometimes people will ask me, how do you avoid cutting through the fence? And with the small chop saw, it's just a matter of not pulling the saw all the way down. It's kind of a feel thing. You get used to just cutting through the molding, but not all the way through the fence. Now, as far as the sliding miter saw, that works a little bit differently. That's what the insert is for. And I had planned to build this saw into the cabinet this week, but the week just kind of got away from me. And I actually want to make it a little bit nicer than what I had first thought. I changed the design a little bit. The plan now is to build a cabinet on either side of this green cabinet, and then a long cabinet on top with drawers and a fence that I can attach a stop block to. So I'm always a week or two behind schedule. So anyway, that's what's going on. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.